All right, and here we go. Again, thank you everyone for being with us this afternoon for our afternoon session. On behalf of the Army Credentialing Assistance Program Office, or CAPO, we are glad to have each and every one of you here with us. We've got some updates that's going to be very relevant to each and every one of you, especially as our vendors. So we want to make sure that we take this time to give you those updates and the way ahead on how things are going to go for a while. So we're going to go ahead and jump in here. I got a few more people coming in through the lobby, so I'm just approving them in, and we'll go ahead and get rolling here. Next slide. Today, we're going to give you an overview of updating your contact information as well as your items that you list for the program. We're going to talk about invoicing and receipt upload. We're going to talk about some finance lead notes. We're glad to have the finance team with us this afternoon, and then our program manager, Mrs. Sophia Sweeney, is going to end it all up for us. I will remind everyone, please make sure if you have not done so already, please make sure that your microphones are muted. That way we don't get any back noise or anything in the recording. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started here. Next slide. All right. So many of you, or just about all of you, when you were setting up your new accounts in the AI portal, when we transitioned over, you probably noticed a screen like this that was advising you of items you needed to put in for your contact information and to select to help make sure your portal was correct. I've got someone with their mic unmuted. All right, so this is what you see in the system as you're going through there. You're wanting to make sure that you have Army invoicing, cool, allow students to view, and also grades if you or the individual you're designating has the rights to upload grades. You want to make sure those items are checked there because as you're rolling through this, next slide. This is what the soldiers are going to see. They're going to click into the vendor that they're interested in, and they're going to be looking for your information, your contacts, the courses that you offer. So we're going to talk about first your contact information. You can see here you have general questions. Next slide. Then, of course, you've got items like grades, invoicing. So, if these are the individuals that you want soldiers to reach out to and to make contact with, make sure that one, that it's clicked available to view by soldiers, and two, make sure this information is up to date and current because this is who the soldiers are going to be trying to reach out to get their price quotes or updates about their grades once they've completed. So, make sure this information is up to date and current. Next slide, because this also is what the soldier is going to see. This is what they're seeing when they go to select their credential or their course that they're interested in pursuing with you. And you'll notice there, just like we've been telling everyone, to make sure that you upload the course name and the cost, because that's exactly what the soldier is going to see when they get in here. They're going to see that course name and the cost. Next slide. But if you don't put anything in the system, then they have nothing to look at. And then that soldier has to go find another vendor to participate with or ask us, even though they know the vendor is in the system, why they can't select that vendor. So please make sure that you go back, you've uploaded your courses. We'll be sending out our slides and everything from this when we're done. So you'll have that as a reference point. But make sure you are uploading your information, you're putting it in the system, you're putting it coursework and grades, and that way soldiers can look in there and they can select what you offer, they can see the cost, and they'll know what they're getting from you as a vendor. Next slide. All right, and I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Sophia Swinney. She's going to talk you a few things about some changes that are coming through with the being able to view pinning cards and other items that we have on the books right now. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Sophia.
Thank you, Russell, and welcome everyone. I'm glad to have you on board. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Sophia Sweeney. I'm the Credentialing Assistance Program Manager, as well as the Army Cool Program Manager. Also have several people from our team. Got our boss, Steve Clare. He's the chief of credentialing, the credentialing division here at Access Army University. Also have, as you already know, Russell Gray and Dottie Heffelfinger. They both do vetting of vendors. They also, Dottie also does processing of cases. Got Kristen and David, Kristen Clark and David Meadner. They both process cases. And then we have the finance team. So you'll have Sandy Claiborne. She's the finance lead. And I know some of her team members are on there as well. So it should be Vanessa and I don't know who else, but they're on here as well. The last person I want to introduce is Christine Loving. She is the Army Cool, project manager. So everything cool, Army Cool. And I just say Army Cool because she's the Army Cool lead. She's actually here for that as well. All right. So a lot of hot topics today. I know a lot of you are very interested in how this process is going to go when it comes to invoices, receipts, and being able to view pending credentialing assistance cases. So that's finally here. You're now able to view those that ACAPO, that's my team, which is, again, Dottie, Kristen, David, and myself. So when those cases are moved over to finance for payment, you will now be able to see them, just like you were in the last system, except it's a little different in how you can get to those. We have 3 different ways in which you can view those that are pending payment. They have not been paid, they're only pending. Somebody has a hot mic. All right, so moving right along. First thing you want to do is log into the AI portal. Just remember, you only have access to the AI portal. Soldiers never go into the AI portal. They do not have access, and they only have access to Army Ignited, okay? You do not have access into Army Ignited, nor will they be the ability to do so later on. Okay, so 2 separate portals, but it's AI portal that actually updates Army Ignited when it comes to the courses and things that you grades, those types of things that you do. So from your homepage, you can see there's these different boxes. There should be an invoicing box, a grades box, but there will be maybe some of you aren't the person that adds grades, so you might not have that box. Everything depends on what your permissions allow for. So if you know that you have permissions to do invoicing, but that box doesn't appear for you, then you need to go and send in a help desk ticket through the AI portal to get that added to your account. But again, first check with your UAC, whoever it is that gave you those permissions. Make sure that you were or weren't given that permission before submitting a help desk ticket. I did see one question, and I want to make sure. Where did it go? So Diana asked, is it possible to create a separate category for Army and then Army CAP? If I add my CAP people to Army and grades, for example, our TA students might reach out to them. Diana, are you just talking about in the Army Ignited system where they can see who's all the points of contacts like Russell just showed? So going back to this one right here, is this what you were talking about? Okay, so if that is the case, right, they I think they just add them all here. They don't necessarily separate. But I can add that to our list of wish list of what we'd like to have so that they do separate both TA and CA. So you not 100% sure how to change that. You could maybe put it in your in the name somewhere, not really sure, but that's something that we can look into. Okay. So moving right along. All right, from here, here's the first way to view pending cars. You're going to go to the online service tab and then scroll down to manage invoices. So right here, you're going to see that there's two partner systems, and this is just because this vendor right here has two different accounts, one for the Air Force, one for the Army, and they may even have a third one because maybe they do MyCAA, right? Whichever the case, select Army Ignited when it comes to Army CA. Once you selected, and you can see it's in blue, once you've done that, go to the drop down under status and click on pending payment. Pending payment. From there, you can see all of the different invoices, right? These are just, excuse me, pending cars. You notice there's no charged or receipt, right? These are just what ACAPO has moved over to finance for payment. There still might be some changes that are being made between the time finance receives it and pays or rejects, right? So right now, this is what you can see, or potentially will come to you for payment. Now, the second option is go to online services again, and then you scroll down to print documents. Okay. From here, you're going to see a few boxes. You can see they say 2 courses available to be printed. You can select any of the boxes, regular Army, National Guard, or Reserve. And once you do that, all the pending cases are going to appear. You'll be able to see the soldier's name. This document ID, that's the new credentialing assistance request number, so CAR, the CARs, right? So then you have it's either going to be training or exam. The start and end dates appear here as well on the total cost. All right. So again, once this is moved to finance, you're able to see it. But once finance creates an invoice, this is going to disappear from all 3 views that I'm going to show you, right? They will all disappear once finance creates that invoice. This is just, for you to view prior to it being paid. Now, ACAPO is a couple to few weeks ahead. So that's how far ahead you'll be able to see what's coming your way for payment. Okay, so please keep that in mind. I'm going to answer a couple of these questions real quick. So the UAC is it's right here. 1 second. Oh, of course. It's the authorized. Russell, what does that stand for again?
You would put me on the spot. The
It's the person who has
unit
control.
authorized coordinator. Basically, that's the individual who you selected from your installation or your institution, excuse me, that is authorized to go in there and say this person has this rights and privileges. 90% of the time, it's the first person who signed on to do an application for you guys, and then would be the one that continues to do it, but it can be assigned to another individual as well. Yeah, that's what I said. Authorize.
A user account control.
Yeah, user account
Thank you.
controller.
Yeah, that's who it is. That's the first person or whoever is designated. They control whether you they can give you permissions, remove permissions, reset your account, that kind of stuff. That's the person. Now, new slides on that will appear or will be sent out to y'all too, so you can see more details on that. Krista asked, what is the estimated processing right now for submissions to moving into pending? So moving or processing these CA requests from soldiers to moving them over to finance is approximately 2.5, 3 weeks ahead of schedule, right? From their start dates. That's where we're at this point. All right, Michelle, I've had soldiers reach out to me for an invoice via email. Will their request now only be in the portal? All right, so we are going to discuss the quote invoice difference. Actually, I'll just go over right now. There's a difference between what soldiers are requesting from you when they request a quote. They're going to request a quote from you. That quote is what they use to upload into their goal and their CA request, right? When finance is going to make a payment to you, they create the invoice. Okay, so it's two different. We just want to make sure we keep our language separate, right? So quote, that's for SODRs who want to submit CA requests. And the invoice is only created by finance. Now, the verbiage in here in the AI portal all says, invoice. Got it. But we're not using invoice when it comes to SODRs requesting custom quotes from you. They will continue to request custom quotes from you to upload into their CA or their goal and their CA request. Okay. All right. So there's that one. Let me see. I'm going to answer a couple more. I don't have any of the options under online services that are showing here. How can I get that changed? Again, you will need to contact whoever your UAC is, whoever's in charge of that account, or you can submit a help desk ticket if you're supposed to have that. Okay. How do I figure out who my school's UAC is? You can always ask the help desk. The help desk will tell you who exactly is the UAC for your account. Okay. Is it new that SODRs can see they are approved now prior to funding being submitted? I've had SODRs reach out recently looking for their study materials saying they're approved, but payment has not been yet submitted. So sometimes they will say that, oh, my stuff was approved. Well, they might be talking about their goal, right? So there's two separate parts to this. There's a goal, right? And that is where they request, the credential is really the goal, right? So they request a goal before they can submit for the funding, request for funding, which is the CAR. So they upload the quote that you give them into the goal. Once we see that come across our queue, we approve it. And it says approved goal, right? But that doesn't mean the funding has been approved yet. It tells them they have notes that are sent to them. It even messages in their email boxes saying, your goal was approved. Now submit your request for funding, right? So again, people get confused when we talk about approved goals and CA requests. So then once they submit their CA request, it will say it's submitted. They can see all of this. They just have to look in their account. We have, if you all went to Army Cool and you downloaded the SODR CA process guide, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Because that tells you, that shows them all the steps, where it's at in the system. Is it actually an approved CA request, or is it pending ACOPO review? Is it pending payment? All of that is in the slides. So I would ask that you all go there. Okay, you got a hot mic. Got some hot mics there. Please, team, get those hot mics.
Mine's great too, and I just wonder why.
Okay.
And that's all it should be. They go all along. Okay.
You could please mute your computers, or team, please get the hot mics. Thank you.
Got him, Sophia.
Appreciate it. All right. So now moving on. So once you select one of those categories, you can see again the documents, which is the CAR. It's called document ID in here, but it's actually the CA request. Okay, we have already moved it over to finance for payment. So now you're able to see it a couple weeks in advance, starting right here. You can see the SODR's name, whether it's a training or exam, the start and end dates, and the total cost of that exam. All right, so if you happen to notice that, gosh, that that end date is totally off. It's not, they still need, like, I don't know, a couple more months. It's not there. You are always able to reach out, because once you click on that document number, it will provide this to you. You'll be able to see the SODR's email, SODR's phone number, what they requested, that it was actually signed, and so forth, right? You can reach out to them and say, your end date is you know, way too short. You need to ask for a couple more, you know, months. And then that soldier can submit a CA, an actual request in the Army Ignited system using the Credentialing Assistance Office category to request an extension. And then at that point, we will fix the end date for that soldier if they're eligible, okay? Also down here, it says, down in the initials box, the second initials box, it says ACAPO concurs pending finance payment. Again, that does not mean that things can't change between here and when it gets to finance, right? Maybe the soldier wants to drop the course for some reason. You know, they get flagged in between the time we send it over to finance and finance pays, or finance has to reject because something is incorrect, and whatever the case, right? That still can happen. This is not saying this is approved. It only says ACAPO concurs pending finance payment. You are always able to reach out once you see these in your queue to make any necessary changes, okay? And here's the third version, or the third option on how to view pending cars. From here, you would go to schools, scroll down to reports. And then this is just a side note right here. Some of you see this AF Cool required action, asks you to reaffirm. If you are not an Air Force vendor, you could just leave that there, right? That only applies to the Air Force. Now, we do share this portal with the Air Force, so sometimes some of their, you know, things will pop up here, and just disregard if you're not a vendor for Air Force. All right, from this page, just make sure the partner system says Army Ignited, and then you can scroll down to the bottom and generate a report. Once you do that, all of the students that are pending for you will appear here. It's going to give you what kind of course it is, the car number or CA request number, start date, end date, the price, and the student's full name, okay? The only issue here is that if you happen to have multiple accounts, maybe you're a vendor for Army, Air Force, MyCAA, TA, you know, for both Air Force and Army, you're going to see a whole lot of, you know, items pop up here. What you do need to know is that ours will always say training or exam, okay? So this might not be the easiest thing for you to see. You may want to use the other two options to view who's waiting for CA side, okay? Those are your ways. Those are your ways to be able to view all of the pending cars. So I'm going to pause right there for any questions. And if you have, if you want to raise your hands, please feel free to ask your questions. We'll pause just for a few. Robin, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. So should we invoice when we see it pending, or should we still wait for the email?
So that is a great question. And the answer is don't touch it, right? There's no reason for you to create any invoices, okay? Finance is the only people that will create an invoice. You're just going to leave it there.
Okay. So we used to do an invoice, right? And then also the credit card transaction. So, yeah, right, as an example, Emily sent a note today. Hello, you know, these people have been approved for funding. Please use invoice number such and such. Mm-hmm. So in the past, we would create an invoice and then we would create a corresponding credit card receipt and then send that back to her.
Right. And so that is going to change and that will cease. Our finance lead, Sandy, will be addressing that here shortly. Once I get past these next two parts, she will be addressing, you know, when and all that good stuff that's going to take place. So yes, that will change, Robin. For now, it still remains the same.
Okay, Great. I'll hold my other question then for that section. I think that'll probably come up. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Who else has their hand up? Nita?
Yes, I have a quick question. So many of our classes, they always start on a weekend. And we're noticing that even though the student is on the approved list, we're not getting the email till the following Monday when the class has already started. So if they're on the approved list, can we go ahead and let the student go ahead and start?
No, absolutely not. They can never start until after it's funded. And I think with this new process, it's going to make things a lot quicker so that they're able to, start on time. But unfortunately, no, do not allow them to start. That's just pending. They can only start when finance hits the paid button in the soldier's account or their CA request.
But the email that I'm getting, it has the date it has the right date the student has requested. And I don't know if the finance is running late, sending the email out, or what the situation is.
Yeah, there has been some that have been sent out a bit late. So understand if you can't, allow them to continue after it gets paid. But again, this is one way it's going to help keep them from going or from finance paying after the start date. So we apologize for that, but it will get better.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We hope that you can allow them to start a little late, but we understand if you can't. But it would be great if you could.
No, we always accommodate. I'm just trying to figure out how to do it. If they have the date and everything submitted properly and it's approved, and the funding is getting approved, but it's coming in later than when the class started.
I know, I'm sorry. They're working through that and it'll get better.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ashley?
Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm the chief flight instructor for Lenny Leia Flight School. Please feel free if this needs to be a completely separate meeting, because flight training is a whole different process. We don't hand out grades, we don't hand out any of that. It's just more becoming proficient for their big test or their check ride. But I just wanted to clarify that my school doesn't receive any invoices or like direct payment from the CA. This is all done with the soldiers and your entire organization. I just wanted to clarify if that's correct.
So I'm sorry, I didn't catch that last part that you just said. Can you clarify?
That us as a flight school or flight training in general, we do apply for the CA program for the soldiers. However, we are not directly in communication with the program itself as far as receiving payment and then having it allocated towards their education directly. I guess with this new system, I just wanted a little bit more clarification, but we can always set aside a different meeting because flight training is a little different than traditional education.
Right, so you do have access to the AI portal, right?
No, we don't.
Oh, okay, so you definitely need to make sure that whoever is in charge of doing that stuff has access and can be able to see all of this information, to include adding the pass fail. All of that stuff has to be done in the AI portal.
Okay. I'll take a look at that thing. If anything, yeah, we could set a whole different side because as far as representation from the flight school herself, yeah, we have no knowledge of this. But yeah, we'll continue and I'll take a dive into that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And if they wanted to add you to the AI portal to do that, it's totally, I mean, that's something I would recommend, to add more
Okay.
people that actually have part in the process so you're able to see.
For sure. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
No problem. And so to address so Christina said, I agree with this, flight school should have a separate training module that is specific to our industry. I guess I'm not tracking what you're looking for. It doesn't matter what industry, everyone must do all of what we're requiring through the AI portal. I hope that answered
Perfect.
your question. Okay.
It gave me a little information, but I'll definitely probably send you a separate email to, because the things that we're talking about doesn't necessarily pertain directly to the type of training that flight training is, you know? But yeah, no worries. We'll just continue on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And I understand there's, I got that you have check rides, you have like flight training, so many hours, so all that good stuff. Well, yeah, we can discuss offline.
For sure.
Okay.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and move forward just a little bit. So Nikita or Anita, is your hand still up because you have another question, or could you lower your hand if you don't?
Yeah, sorry, I'll lower it.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so invoices for payments, moving right along to this one. So from the home page, you're going to click on online services, and then you're going to go to manage invoices. Now, instead of clicking pending, you're going to look at processed. Okay, this is where you make sure you have Army Ignited and you select processed. Then you hit search. And from there, you're going to see all the individual links for under invoice number, right? So you can click on one of them, click on payment, and then you're able to download the authorization letter from here, okay? And this authorization letter is where you're going to receive the credit card information, and also the student information is going to be on the second page attached to this specific document, okay? This is what you need to, this is what you're going to be using to fund or accept the payment for that one student, right? All right, so any questions? Okay, I see a hand up. Go ahead, Jody.
Hey, Sophia, thanks so much. It's Jody from NCMA. First of all, thank you so much for everything you do. I know I get all your emails all the time, so thank you for that. So in the future, we will not be receiving the emails about like the payment's ready to be made. We'll just be able to go onto the portal and see that it's ready to be made. And then from there, like take the payment for it.
Yep, absolutely. It's going to go right to the portal. Let me go right. Yeah, you're going to start seeing, you're going to need to look first, right? Just start looking for pending. That way you have a good idea of who's coming your way. And then you're going to start seeing populate down here as, those that are needing to be processed. So
will we receive any emails for when they are ready to be processed? Or is that something I'll just have to go on every day and look?
You're just gonna have to go on every day and look. Now, somebody brought up in the morning session, is there a way to get an email notification or something, like an automated message from the system? And we've taken that back. We're trying to figure out if that is something that can happen. That way you're notified when stuff is in there. But until we know for sure, and again, we'll send out an email once we know. You'll need to go and check yourself kind of like on a daily basis just to see if there's something there. Okay.
And this has already started, so I shouldn't be expecting any more emails from you or your team about payment going forward.
No. That hasn't started yet. It's starting next week. Yeah, next week. And right after I finish with these, you're going to hear from the finance lead, Ms. Claiborne, and she'll be able to go into detail of what you will start seeing starting next week.
Okay, thanks so much, Sophia. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Roxanne?
Yes, hi, Sophia, Roxanne. So piggybacking on that question that was asked right now, so you showed up the letter there under payments, and that's letting us know that one of the service members was approved. So in the past, I would get a phone call, from the finance team. Okay, well, I have payment. This is the credit card information. So that's not going to happen anymore. Now with this letter, the credit card information is going to be there. Is that how I'm understanding this?
Yes, you're not going to receive the phone calls any longer or emails. You're going to see it here in the system, and this is where you're going to receive that authorization letter with the credit card info.
Got it. Great. A lot simpler. Thank you.
Oh, Oh, great. I'm glad. Whoo, hey, there's a win. Somebody likes it.
Yes.
I'm just kidding. But yeah, so that is how the new process is going to go. And it will eventually, once everyone gets used to it, it will get easier. So, oh, Elizabeth, go ahead.
Going in there and we're checking daily if the student is able to get funded. Is it still required for them to submit for their funding 45 days prior to their initial start date?
So this, what I'm going over has nothing to do with when the SODR submits. They're still going to do the same process. They're going to request a quote from you all. They're going to submit their goal and their CA request 45 days from their submission date. The start date has to be at least 45 days still. Everything still up until this point is the same.
Okay.
This is the only changes that are going to happen. And I will tell you, eventually, once we get a little more automation in the system, that 45 days is going to come down. We're not going to always keep it at 45 days. But again, once our automation, well, we get further in our automation and things get a little easier for our side, right? Because everything on our side is still fairly manual. So more to follow on that, but just know that it's coming. It will be shorter and a lot more people will be happy. All right, so, okay, next person, Jamie.
Hi, Sophia, how are you?
Good, how about yourself?
Cute good, baby. Thanks, okay. Yeah, so I was calling, so we have our AI portal set up and we were approved for Army Ignited or Army CA, all of that. And then we just logged into our AI portal again, and now it says everything else is approved besides our Army CA and Army Ignited. I don't understand what's going on because it says that the courses weren't put in, but they were put
in. Well, let me see. Did we put in our emails in there in the chat box yet? If not, please put it in there. And then Jamie, if you could send us an email and we could discuss that further. I mean, if anything, yeah, we can check on our side just to see, but if it's not there, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we've always been approved and we did put in our courses, but for some reason, it just, when we logged in, it said that we weren't approved, but we're approved for everything else, the Navy, everything.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so just email you guys?
Yep, Dottie just put it in the chat box, so please feel free to do that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. I think Mary was next.
Yes, thank you. I just want to clarify, typically when participants call us, they'll say that they need a quote, and we advise them to register for our class first, and then we provide them with the quote with the information, and then we advise them to upload that to their Army CA request. I heard you mention that they need to fill out a goal. So do we state simply that, fill out your, register with us, we'll send you a quote, and make sure that they submit a goal as well? Is that two separate things, the Army CA request and a goal?
So what happens is when the soldiers get the quotes from you, they submit, they have to select a credential, right? So when they select a credential, that's called a goal, right? Eventually that'll go away and it'll just go right into the CA request. But until that time, it's a two-part process. They submit a goal with the quote. We approve that goal only. Then it tells them, now submit your CA request. So when they do that, that is where they're going to continue on with the start date, all of the other good stuff. But it's just the credential that they have to select first, and then they go right into requesting their funds.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so Lean Alaska.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So this may just be impeccable timing. So as I'm looking through here in the managed invoices, the slides that you just had up a moment ago, where it had processed and it showed the invoice number, click on it, and then you can go to authorization letter, right?
Mhm.
So this morning, and like I said, I know the emails are going to stop, so this just may be a timing issue, but I did receive an email this morning, you know, the one we've traditionally gotten that says these are the 4 authorizations that you have.
Yeah.
And when I'm in here looking in managed invoices, I see those under pending payment, not under processed. And under pending payment, there's no authorization letter. So is this, the email's just ahead of the curve a little, or am I missing something?
So this process right here that you're going through right now, that it's still going to remain the same, right? And then next week is when you're going to be able to do that whole, you go into process and then that is
Got it.
after.
Okay.
Does that
So
make
next
sense?
week, yeah. Oh, yeah, it does.
Yeah,
It
next
does.
week.
Yeah. So kind of like Mondays are marked. They'll stop emailing and then we'll come in here, look in pending or look in the processed and then do the authorization letter. Okay. Yeah. I figured it might have just been a timing issue for today. So no, that works out. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Good question. All right, next person. I think Rachel will be the last one I take before we move on. Go ahead, Rachel.
Hi, Rachel Heber from ACI Learning. I was just curious about how, I might be jumping ahead here. How are refunds going to be taking place in this system?
Yep. So so that's another thing, and Sandy will talk more about it. But refunds still happen the same way as far as when we request them, right? So if a soldier requests a withdrawal, and that's actually part of my last slide, but you know, you're never going to refund until we request. ACAPO
Right.
must request a refund. And
Right.
then how it goes in the system, I'll let Sandy talk about that.
Perfect. All right,
So-
great. I
so,
figured I was
yeah.
jumping ahead, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, whoops, sorry. I was going to show you something else, but I'll show you at the end. All right, so moving right along, we got to this part here. Now receipts. Okay, once you have already completed you've made the payment, we ask that you upload the receipt into the AI portal. You're going to now add the authorization code, the date, and so forth. The authorization code is like a 6 to 7 digit number. It can be called approval code or transaction code here, okay? So just like it shows, select the date, and then from there, once you're done, select the file wherever you saved it on your desktop or whatever. And then from there, you can upload the receipt. Okay, and at that point, you're done. And then finance will then be able to pay or hit paid on the soldier's account so that they can get started. All right. So any questions before we move on? And let's see, we still have 2 hands up. Jamie, are you wanting to ask a question or can you lower your hand, please? Okay, so where do we find the authorization codes? Okay, the authorization codes are found on your receipts. Okay, it will be found on your receipt. And I hope I answered those. All right, so, okay, Robin, go ahead.
Okay, I hope I'm not premature in this question. This is again related to multiple transactions. So in the past, we would do 1 credit card transaction per learner. But now we're being issued an invoice number specifically to reference. So will we be doing 1 credit card transaction per course or per invoice number that you guys generate? I hope that made sense.
I'm gonna let Sandy answer that one. Let me just go ahead and turn it over to her because she will need to answer some of these questions. But Sandy Claiborne is the finance lead, and so I'm gonna turn it over to her. Go ahead, Sandy.
Hello, everyone. Sandy Claiborne here. Just to answer your question, so in the past, it was always recommended in the old system to charge per request per service member. But in this new system, you will be able to pay the entire invoice in 1 payment transaction. So unless for some reason your internal system does not allow you to do that, you can still charge per request, but it's highly recommended if you can just do one invoice, because our system will only allow one PDF file attachment. So if you do charge individually, just keep in mind that you'll have to combine those receipts into one PDF and attach it that way, if that answers your question.
Oh, that is a great answer. Thank you. I love it. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on. So from this morning's session that Sophia held, we did have some additional questions on the finance side. So I did add some additional updates in there, so that way, you know, the vendors that are not able to attend can come back and look at the slides. And if you also need to reference it, I've tried to leave as much detail as possible. So the first thing I did want to mention is that, you know, on the authorization letter, it does state that payment will need to be made within 48 hours of when you receive the authorization letter. So just keep that in mind, that Backup team is weeks ahead. So we will get those requests for payment in our queue earlier. And I think with this new process, it'll help avoid last minute notification to you. So I don't foresee that being a problem, but we just ask for your patience, as this is a new process for the credentialing assistant side, that finance will work with you. And we know the first couple of weeks will be a little bit chaotic, and you may have some questions. So, but we did need to have some kind of requirements to adhere to on the finance team. So that is, we will be going by that guidance that's in, or that comment that's in the authorization letter, talking about 48 hours to make payment. And then just a couple of things I wanted to share was that, so like Sophia said, we are not going to start this process in the AI portal until Monday. That is when the finance team will no longer send you emails for notification of payment, and that includes phone calls as well. But keep in mind that we do still have some requests in our system that we're working on payment on that are for March. So anything that that's going to be processed on Monday is going to be for course start dates starting 1 April and after. Okay, so another thing I wanted to point out, because we still have requests that we need to make payment on with start dates of 31 March and prior, we will continue to email you the invoice, and we will still request payment to our credit card as we do now, and or phone call you as we do now. But since the system's set up and running, I did want to point out that you may see invoices in the AI portal for those with the March start dates. And that is because we are still creating those invoices. We haven't gotten to that invoice yet because the start date is, you know, maybe next week, for instance. So as we close out those those requests, you may see these invoices in the AI portal, but just ignore those. So do not charge your credit cards if you get that notification through the AI portal with class start dates of 31 March and prior. And then also, I know majority of the vendors obviously would probably check to make sure that we have not already made payment. So if you see anything with 31 March start dates or prior, I just would ask you to double check to make sure we have not made payment to you, because you still are not going to charge the card, you know, and upload the receipt in the AI portal for those with those start dates. So I know I keep repeating myself, but I just want to really stress that we are still going to be handling that as we currently do for March start dates. If you happen to charge your card, that will be a duplicate payment, and then that's just going to result in a refund back to our cards. So it would just be more work for on your end and on the finance team. And then, oh, and just like Sophia mentioned, CA and TA is handled differently. So I know a lot of the schools vendors that work with tuition assistance create the invoice for through the portal, but just to remind you once again that finance for the credentialing assistance requests, we will always create the invoice. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. Currently, I do have some invoice requests that some of the vendors have sent for credentialing through the portal. And I think that was just a confusion. And then also you may be seeing some things generate from credentialing, as I mentioned, because a system is up and running. But those will be rejected or canceled on our side. So if you happen to accidentally create an invoice, that will just be canceled on our end. So don't worry about that. And then if you could also please make sure that that you upload the payment receipt as soon as possible. And then again, make sure to charge the entire invoice amount as one transaction if your system allows you to. I know some vendors, it's either more complicated or their system doesn't allow them to pay as one transaction because they have to, link that to the service member's record, however your system has it. So we do understand that. But just remember that if you do charge individually, that we do have to have a combined PDF to include all those receipts for the one invoice that you receive. And then lastly, I did want to recommend that when service members do register through you, if you can ask them for both their government email and their personal email address. There's two reasons for that. One, if you need to contact us, you can reference their government email, which will allow you to find them faster in the system. And if we were able to add an enhancement in the future to the invoice, that will the service member's government email will be the one that will populate. So that'll definitely help you identify which John Smith that you're looking for in your system. And then with that being said, I don't really have anything else to share at this time. So if anyone has any questions, I can go ahead and take some questions.
We do. Oh, 1 second. Let me look at the ones in the chat real quick because they were asking. All right. Jody said, thank you. We cannot do one invoice for multiple people. So I think he was talking about that when you were. So Jody, are you on?
Yeah, I'm all good. So we can just stack them in one PDF. That's no problem at all. So good to hear that there's a way to get around it.
Standing. Okay.
Thank you.
Another one says, Christine said, I have a student with a 3/31 start date. So I wait for an email of payment and ignore anything I see in the AI portal, correct?
Yes, that is absolutely correct.
Perfect. All right. Now we have Siobhan, I think, was first. Go ahead, Siobhan.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I just had a general question in reference. I'm able to see the download authorization letter and a download receipt file. And where would I find an authorization for your receipt file, and how will we be able to upload that? Because I don't see that right now.
Oh, Siobhan, are you talking about the authorization code that Sophia was going over that you have to enter?
Yeah, because I couldn't find what was the authorization code and where should I find that?
Yes, ma'am. So basically all that is based off of how you you complete the transaction for our credit card. On the receipt, it normally shows like a transaction ID or an authorization code. That's what she was talking about.
So should we add that to the download PDF that shows a receipt from Auburn University?
Yeah, so it should be on the receipt. But that is something that you will have to enter, otherwise you won't be able to upload the receipt in the system.
Yes, ma'am. I did not see an authorization code that was on there, so it just had a receipt and I apologize. My system it logs you out when there's no, I guess, activity. And when you do the payment, that was just a concern of mine. We just want to make sure that we're doing it correctly. So,
no, that's fine, Siobhan. And if this helps answer your question, no, I know some vendors are, smaller organizations, so they may not have that kind of process when they charge a credit card where it produces some kind of transaction ID or some kind of, something like that. So in that case, if you're talking about something like that, I would just enter, a dummy code, maybe 012345.
got you. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Chris Billingsley has a question.
Thank you, ma'am. Quick question. So our system requires us to process two separate transactions, one for the content and then one for the exam. It also generates the receipt in that same manner, one for the content and one for the exam. How would you guys like us to get that out, get that back to you for the receipt?
Hey, Chris. Yes, if you can just combine all those into one PDF.
Okay, perfect. I just
That would
wanted to make
work.
sure that that was still there. I know you said it, but I wanted to make sure. Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, no, absolutely. You're welcome, sir.
And Elias has a question. Sorry if I said that wrong. MSSC.
Hey, yeah, my name is Elias. So currently we process the exam and the coursework as two separate transactions. But since you're wanting a combined PDF, can we now just process them all as one bigger transaction for each candidate?
Can you repeat that? I'm a little confused of your question.
So
Sorry.
typically when we get our invoices from credentialing assistants, they come in a list and every item is separated. And that was something that credentialing assistants had. It's like the registration fee, the coursework, and the exam. Those were three separate payments.
Right.
So what I'm asking is, can we now process those? So we would have to process them on our end individually.
Hi.
What I'm
Combine
asking
them,
is,
please.
can we now combine them?
I
Yes,
know,
absolutely.
I'm on an Army webinar and your timing. Okay.
We have a hot mic, but yes, to answer your question, you can make all that in one payment. They don't have to be separated out.
Okay, that's great.
I think Siobhan and Elias, if you could please put your hands down if you have no other questions. And then Alexa just asked, can we just put the transaction authorization code in the name of the receipt? Our generated receipts don't allow us to input additional information like an authorization code in the actual document.
Oh, yes, and if your system doesn't generate one on your receipt, that's what I was mentioning earlier. You can just enter some kind of dummy format like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because otherwise the portal won't allow you to upload that receipt without an authorization code.
Awesome, thanks. Susan, you have a hot mic now. I'll mute you. Okay. Okay, thank you, Sandy. All right, we'll go ahead and move on. Do you have anything else, Sandy, before we move on?
No, I was just going to mention refunds, but I was going to let you go ahead with the slide first and then comment as needed.
All right. So real quick, I just want to talk about some issues we are seeing, right? We're still seeing vendors refund without a request from ACOPO, right? So vendors are never to ask or refund without the request. We will always request a refund if the soldier has requested a withdrawal and there is a valid reason. If there is, then I will, or my team will, be requesting that refund of whatever unused portion be returned, right? And at that point, Ms. Claiborne will tell you where to send it, whether it be directly to the credit card or to another location. I'm not 100% sure on how it will work inside the system, so I'm going to let Sandy talk about that for a second. Sandy, are we going to put the refund part in the system, or is it always going to go back to you in a check or credit card?
Yes, Sophia. So since this morning I had mentioned that the refunds would go through this the portal. However, I'm going to update my statement on that. So like Sophia said, if you have a refund, you're going to always communicate with ACAPO first before you refund the government credit card. So based off Sophia's guidance, if she says to return to credit the credit card, you will do that as you normally would. And then you should be able to process that refund in the AI portal as a return back to the GPC card. However, if it's going to be a check, Sophia will also include me in that email, and I will respond to you where to mail the check out. Because until I get verification from our systems team, I don't want you to do a refund as a check through the AI portal. That would be something that you will mail to us as of right now.
Thank you. So just to highlight the information on refunds, soldiers who withdraw from a CA-approved course or exam must do so in Army Ignited. Soldiers must download and digitally complete the CA withdrawal form, and then under no circumstances will they coordinate a withdrawal directly with the vendor. If this occurs, the soldier will be liable for any debt that's incurred. So it's extremely important. You don't just let them, well, if you let them withdraw, that means it's fine. However, they are going to still be liable for this debt until they withdraw properly in Army Ignited, and that must be approved. If it's not approved, they're still going to be liable for that debt. And so you do not return those funds because the soldier asked you to or whatever. That is not how the process goes. And in your MOA, it also discussed the same thing. The soldier must submit a request for a W. A W can be entered by our team when they submit an Army Ignited message. They will select the Credentialing Assistance Office category, and they'll request that we add a W. Okay? The only people that can add W's into a soldier's account is ACAPO. So vendors cannot add W's or anything. The only thing you can add is a pass or a fail. And ACAPO is the only place that can do that. Ed centers do not have the ability to do that either. So Ed centers don't have a process at all within the CA program. They do some counseling, but they have no hands-on or any access to the CA portion. Okay, so please, they just advise them to go and request a W if that is the case through the Army Ignited system for ACAPO. Okay. If we do request a refund, we're going to ask you to provide the unused amount. Now, if it is, depending on the start and end dates, I may not even request a refund, period. Okay. So if we don't request a refund, you do not send us that money back. It is, if we request the refund, will you, respond with, the refund information that you're going to provide. All right. So please don't refund without request from our team. Okay. Let me see. And then some updates still. We are still pursuing the vendor ability to upload your pass or fail grade prior to the end date. It's not there yet, but we will get there. It's just slowly but surely happening. Okay. And then we are updating the slides for UAC. And adding grades, adding courses. I've got some updated slides, and Russell will be sending those to you later on. Now I know we had questions about the goal, so I just wanted to show you just what it is that the soldiers do see. Russell, can you see my slides?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so when a soldier creates their goal, and this is kind of the difference, so you understand. They select, MOS or non-MOS. They type in the goal name. Once they hit next, they're going to upload the quote that you provide them right here. Okay, this is where they're going to upload the quote, and then they're going to submit the goal. When it comes to them, they're going to see in their account it was submitted for review, or they still have to, whatever case, it will show them the status. All right. So then Okay, next. Right here, they can see it was approved. That just means it's just an approved goal. You're missing virtual benefits or whatever. They still need to complete the training. So it kind of gives them the information. And this right here tells them they're approved, but now they can submit their CA request. All right. So sometimes they get confused right here. Like, oh, my goal says it's approved, so my funding must be approved to start. And that's not the case. This is just a goal. All right. So then it tells them to apply for funding. All right. Once they apply for funding, they create their, here's the terms and conditions that we're talking about. They all are supposed to check every single time they submit a CA request. They must agree to all the terms and conditions, meaning, and again, this is all basically CA policy. You must finish within the time frame. You will be responsible if you pay out of pocket costs. You will refund the Army if you fail this course or you don't sit for the course or exam during the time frame you request, and so forth. Okay. They agree every single time they submit a CA request. From there, they select their vendor. They add their start and end dates. It always tells them what they can and can't select. They add their training, whatever it is. They can add it manually or not. They select it. Again, they add any fees, and then they submit, and they got their, let me see, I want to show you the actual. Here is where they know for sure what the status is. They get the status. It's in their account. ACAPO reviews, ACAPO concurs, pending finance payment. This is where they will always need to go, and you can send them right back to it and say, does your account say ACAPO concurs, or does it say approved and paid? Because if it says approved and paid, that means it has been funded and the soldier can start. But I wanted to show you that because they do see and they are notified every single time this thing moves. They get emails every time when something moves from one part to another. Okay. And you can, so I see a question from Brittany, where can we download the handbook for soldiers? That is an Army Cool. So if you go to Army Cool and then you go to the credentialing assistance tab, and it, again, this is a public page. You all can download the Soldier CA process guide. From there, you can see exactly how everything goes, how the process from start to finish is, okay? So I wanted to put that out. Then I've got, let me see. All right, no problem. All right, so at that point, is there any questions? I want to make sure I answer your questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. Okay. Gosh, that was actually, you all still hear me, right? Well, I knew Siobhan was going to have a question for me. Go ahead, Siobhan.
Hi, thank you again. Quick question. Sometimes if there's an error that occurs, whether it was a wrong amount entered, how can corrections will be guided through to make an adjustment? Do we contact you all directly? Do we message?
If you're saying if the soldier entered the wrong price?
Pricing, yes, ma'am.
Okay, if the soldier entered the wrong price, if it doesn't, and it reflects the correct price in the quote.
And sometimes people can, make an error. Say, for instance, if the correct amount may be $3,950 and they did something less.
Right. Well, you see it, like when you do check and you say, oh my gosh, this guy just totally sent in the wrong or added the wrong price. Tell the soldier so that they can submit a message to our team stating, and again, you can see where it says select a credentialing assistance category when they go into Army Ignited messaging, and they can ask, they can say, hey, I entered the wrong dollar amount. Can you please change it to blah, $39.95, right?
Yes,
and then we can make we can make that change ourselves before, even if it was moved to finance, we still have the ability to make that change really quick.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there's just certain things, like if they selected training when it should have been an exam, we can't change that, right? But we can change little things like that. That's not a big deal.
Hey, Sophia, can I add something?
Sure.
I was just going to say, if when you're adding your courses and cost into the AI portal, it helps when you add everything that you that you have, because then they're not changing the cost, because the cost is already in there. So that helps a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so Dottie, that actually answers Amy's question. Can we add courses to our course catalog that are not required but would be beneficial to obtaining the certification? You can add them separately in there if you think that that is something that's beneficial. Just make sure it's not bundled. Okay. How long do SODERs have to utilize Cool 19, Cool 20 funds? So Kim, SODERs can only use whatever that fiscal year is. They can only use, like right now, FY23. Now, if they had, you may be saying or asking about, can they still continue to use them from, if they requested that back in 2020? The answer is no, right? They only have one fiscal year or one calendar year from their start date to use those funds. I know there are still some SODERs that'll still say, hey, I didn't use it. And that's already done and over. It's done. They no longer can use something outside of that year, that 1 year that they had. I hope that answered your question, Kim. No problem. You mentioned bundle. Can you define bundle? Yes, Juan. Actually, that is a great question because we still get that question as well. Bundled. Now, let's say you're offering a training, and I'm just using PMP as an example. PMP training. And with that PMP training that you might charge $2,000 for, you also give them books and the exam. So the cost of those books and exam contributed to the cost of that training. The overall cost being $2,000. The answer is that is a bundle, right? You just added cost of books and exams into the total cost of the course. So that must be unbundled. Now, if you offered that same PMP training at $2,000, and that's just for the training, but you have some items that you just give, like the virtual books or ebooks, whatever, that have nothing to do with the total cost of that course. And that obviously you don't have to list those, period. If you had training at $2,000 and in that $2,000 you listed books 0, exam 0, that is considered bundle 2. We don't want to see any of the $0 cost items because that would be considered a bundle. It is just PMP training at $2,000. Does that make sense, Juan? And Colin, School of PE, please feel free to ask your question.
Yes, hi, Sophia. So on that note, for our courses, we do exam prep review. We don't offer the exam itself, but for our courses, we offer, there's that field in when we're setting up the courses in Army Cool that, or an AI portal rather, that it asks for what's included in the course. And I've been putting in there what is included, which are basically our notes and then like the quiz generator that we have as part of the class. So I guess when I do that, I'm putting it in there at no cost because it is a feature that's included with the course. So would that count as a bundle or would that not?
You should probably just remove it. You can always link them to your website so they can see what they're going to get. But if it's not cost, if it doesn't contribute to any cost, you can describe the course a little, right? But that's about it, really. Don't add any other costs in there. And do not add exam, because once we see exam, that's considered bundle 2.
Sure, and we're not adding, and I haven't been adding that in there. Basically, when there's like the three different fields. One is the prerequisites, one is what's included in the course, and one is just a brief description. So for the brief description, I've just been describing the course, and then what's included, I've been putting in there basically what I just said, what's included with the course, and I've just been listing out what's included. So should I take out what's included and just replace it with a hyperlink to that page in our website?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Amy asked, can we add courses that we provide in conjunction with another education company? So Amy, my answer to you would be, if you are the one that is, are you talking about like a third party, you hire somebody else to give the course, but you're the one that receives the payment and will provide the quotes and the certificate of completion?
Yeah, so we have a contracted partnership, and they provide the majority of the content, but we administer the course, we accept payment, and we would issue the invoice for the sales order. Yeah, the quote.
Yeah, that's as long as we're dealing with you directly. If you have a third party giving the class, that's totally fine. Lots of AIs do that as well.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Mary?
I kind of have a specific question. We have a soldier that submitted or registered for one of our courses, and we supplied a quote. That quote at the time was 1 page. And since then, I think it was February, we had to split that quote into 3 separate pages listing the training separate, the books, and the exams separate. However, that soldier now received funding, and we received a payment for a partial payment. But now, because the quote date said the class start date was March 13th, that's passed, but it technically doesn't start until March 27th. So now we have this pending amount that's not paid. I'm not sure now how to advise that soldier on what to do. Do we issue a refund, or is there any way that the rest of the payment can be received for that soldier?
If you could please send us an email on that specific topic, because I would definitely need to look deeper into that one.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be the best way.
Okay, thank you.
And we can see what we can do. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, Siobhan, do you have your hand up, or did you just forget to put it down for a question? Okay. All right. So I think we got all the answers. All right. So my boss, Mr. Steve Clare, has a few things he'd like to put up. So without further ado, Steve.
Thanks, Sophia. Hey, thanks, everyone. This was just like the morning session. This was extremely educational, I think, for everyone. We're here to hear your concerns and suggestions as we move forward into making this process for both the vendors and our office more efficient and streamlined. But in the end, we want the easiest process for the soldiers to follow so they can complete their education goals and opportunities. Very valuable feedback that we have today and this morning. So what happens is we'll take those recommendations and feedback for changes. We'll establish the priorities of work within the credentialing program. Then we will put those forward into future enhancement possibilities as we compete with other stakeholders in the system. So just know that all the information that you give us and all the feedback and suggestions is captured and it is tracked. But just know that we are competing with other programs. So Dottie, Russell, Sandy, Sophia, great training. Can't say that enough, that everything that was discussed today is extremely valuable, and I just want to thank all of you as valuable partners in our program moving forward. So I just wanted to take that opportunity and let you know that all the things that you give us is not gone to waste, and we do understand sometimes your frustration, but we appreciate you working with us and being patient as we move forward. Thanks, Sophia. Back to you.
Thank you, Steve. And yes, I echo what Steve said. Really appreciate what you all do for us and understand it is frustrating. Really appreciate your cooperation and your understanding as we enhance this program, make things much better for all parties. And really appreciate you. So thank you, Sandy, Russell, and Dottie and team. I've seen David and Steve for answering these questions in the chat and for giving your spiel in here as well. Thank you all very much. Hope you have a great day. All of this will come to you in an email with the recordings, with the new slides, and so forth. So thank you again.
Thank you for the presentation.